teenagers to do the same with heavy marijuana use, and she shaved her head and she's licking a wrecking ball, and just, she made a name for herself. But it's like today's culture. You have to be get into the raunch and be different and things like that. And she's been really trying to reinvent herself, supposedly. So she's been trying to cut back on the marijuana. And she says she's been proud of herself because she's been marijuana free probably for about 2 months. She's been clean, no pot. But here's the new deal. Because you thought, Hannah Montana might be making a resurgence. She might be coming back. There might be a reunion or something like that. No, I'm just kidding about that. But, she's improving her image. Well, this is the way that apparently Miley thinks that she's going to be able to do that. Now, she's describing herself these days as pansexual. Pansexual. Now, in a prior interview, speaking with Ross King on ITV's UK show, Lorraine, about how she would categorize herself, or rather how she wouldn't categorize herself. She says, I'm weird for many reasons. I think that I feel genderless. I feel ageless, she said. I'm just a spirit soul, not divided by human being. I'm not divided by human being, even animals. There's no me, and then there's no us and you. I just want to be nothing. Cyrus, currently engaged to Liam Hemsworth, also gushed over her famous godmother, Dolly Parton, exclaiming that if someone isn't a fan of the country music legend, Dolly Parton, she thinks they're weird. She says, I was just saying last night that if you don't like Dolly Parton, you're weird, and I'm telling you, you're weird. And that's something because I'm the weirdest person I know, she quipped. No one doesn't like Dolly. She's all super respectful and love and such a great musician, and she's also a great role model. Yeah, at least with Dolly Parton, we always knew we had a woman with Dolly Parton, and Miley Cyrus embrace being a woman. What is wrong with embracing your sexuality as you came into the world to be? I mean, can you not just take the advice of doctors, of scientists that with the chromosomes, it's X and Y? And do I have to say it on the air? I mean, some people need to be educated and re-educated again. God made Adam and Eve and not Steve. And that's the truth. It's God's truth, not mine. It's just evident. I used to hear my mother sometimes occasionally she'll say something like AC/DC, where a man is gay or he's not, or it goes both ways. Yeah, he swings. It doesn't matter. You go with the girls, you go with the guys, you're bisexual. It doesn't matter. You're AC/DC. But that's what they used to call it, apparently, back in the 60s and 70s, where I didn't know any of that stuff. But now, questioning your identities. And like I say, it's like 2% of the population. But I'm reminded that Roe versus Wade, it was a couple of women that were able to invoke that legislation, make the law of the land. So you don't think that a few people or just a small amount of people can make a big difference? They actually can, and they do. And I'm just thinking about the media in general. I have a 14-year-old daughter, folks, and we have Netflix, we have Hulu. But they have special categories now for LGBTQ. I didn't even know what the heck LGBTQ was. It's not that I didn't know that there was gays and there was lesbians, but then there's transgender and gender neutral and all of this stuff. And I'm like, so many choices. It just blows me away. Whole categories. I'm like, do I watch LGBTQ? Do I need to be gay? Do I not need to be? I mean, do I or don't I? I mean, it's confusing enough to be a young person today. And then all of this stuff just slammed down the throat. And now I used to think how wacky some Christians and some religious groups were that they didn't even allow their kids to watch TV. Now I get it. As a parent, Now I get it. There's just a lot of stuff that's on television today, even on Netflix and Hulu. I mean, there's this new show. And Netflix does a lot of their own originating shows. They got the money to be able to do it. Hulu's doing the same thing. And there's a new show that's called Orange is the New Black. That's the name of the show. And I've watched a few just to see what it was all about. And it takes place in a woman's prison. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of lesbianism and very graphic, okay, stuff that goes on there, very suggestive, kind of glamorizing the whole prison experience of what goes on behind the bars and what drove people into them. They do backstories on the individuals that are in jail. But I have to tell you, I question it. I scratch my head and I just say, really? I mean, glamorizing that whole experience in prison as if, again, orange is the new black. That's the jumpsuits that a lot of the jails wear. Not some of them are blue or whatever. I just think it's just unbelievable that there is this garbage that's shoved down people's throats all the time. And I'm like, I'm just sick of it. I really am. Thank God there's family-friendly stuff that you can still find, but it's just interesting because people are curious by nature and then they want to watch this stuff, but kids are really drawn into this stuff. And if you don't think that they're shaped by the stuff, you got something coming. It does shape people's lives, their minds and their psyches. And it happens way too often, folks, in this country. And it's their agenda. It's purposely written in there in the curriculum in our schools right now, in our public schools, where they remove good history, solid history, things like our founding fathers actually read the Bible, they prayed before they actually passed any legislation, before they started any meeting, they would hold hands and they would pray. They would do these things. Nothing's sacred anymore. But folks, you have to make your own decision, but just be warned. It has hurt and has made a lot of people calloused to a lot of these values. You have to stand up for it. You have to fight for it. It's like with these police cars, where they're saying, in God we trust. Can't do that anymore, but you can put a gay flag on there and you can do it sovereign. They don't even allow you to have American flag, but now you can have an American flag. You can't have an American flag, but you can have a gay flag. They'll fly that higher than the American flag. They'll put that in front of what really matters in our country. That should be the only flag that should be flying. And I would just mandate it. And what's really tragic about the whole thing, as an evangelical Christian, it's just like the devil. And I do believe in an evil devil. Maybe not the one with pitchforks, but to use the colors of the rainbow. They use the colors of the rainbow where God actually sent a message to Noah that he would never flood the earth again after the ark actually landed on dry ground after flooding the earth because of man's indiscretions. He used the rainbow to say that he would never do that again. And then you use that as a homosexual color to show that you're gay and relate to that. It's just a slap in the maker's face directly. I think it's awesome. Awesomely egregious. And that just came to me over the weekend. I thought to myself, isn't that interesting? I know this might be a little too much religion for some of you, but listen, this is how I feel about these matters and these things. And I grew up evangelical. As a Methodist, I've attended Baptist churches, Pentecostal churches, Catholic churches, but the Bible's the same no matter where you go with any of those. And I've had too many experiences in my life, folks, to know that we're not alone. I've been through a lot in my life, and I've seen the answers to prayer time and again in my life. And I'll tell you what, God is very real. He's very personable, but he's a God of order. And he sees all, understands all, and there's an accountability to each and every one of us here on this planet. And I think that he has a purpose for mankind. It certainly isn't to disobey rules and regulations. And they're designed actually for us to enjoy. We kind of get away from that. We see what we reap in our country when we remove God from the public square. We remove him from politics. we get these bad things happen. And I'll never forget this. I have to mention this because of a great man of God that told me back in 1995 during the whole Oklahoma City bombing thing when we first had, that terror act in Oklahoma, which was terrible, the Murrah Federal Building, remember? And I asked Dr. Adrian Rogers about that. He was over the Southern Baptist Convention, and he was the senior pastor at Bellevue Baptist that I attended in Memphis, Tennessee. I used to do a talk show for Bott Radio Network back in the 90s. And he said, Keith, he says, it's as if God is removing the hedges from America one by one. And I agree. I totally agreed with him. I saw it. And how many more have not been removed since then, since the 90s? How many more? Because of people's decisions. There's a scripture that says there's a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death. And folks, I think that's true. By the way, Trump is looking very much forward to meeting with Putin. But some advisors are very weary on this. They're not looking forward to it, hoping that Donald Trump actually, when he meets with Vladimir Putin, it's going to have full diplomatic bells and whistles when the two are in Germany. And this is for a multinational summit, and this is taking place next month, folks. July. That's right, the two are going to meet in Germany. But the idea is exposing deep divisions within the administration and the best ways to approach Moscow in the midst of an ongoing investigation into Russia's meddling in the U.S. elections that everybody's talking about. What kind of sanctions, what kind of repercussions, and why are they coming 5 feet from our jet planes when we're in international space? Putting our Air Force in danger, our pilots that are just doing their job, and they're really flexing their muscles in bad ways, and certainly holding up any good progress that could be taking place in Syria. We still don't even know. Last week, supposedly, they killed a bunch of ISIS operatives, they say, but we still haven't had any evidence on the ground to prove that they actually did. They warned that they were actually going to shoot stuff. We still don't know if anybody died, and we got people on the ground to be able to witness that, but nothing's came on the wire. Nothing has shown that he's done anything. But, these are two polarizing figures, folks, Putin and Trump. Going to meet face-to-face meeting. Do you think it's going to make a big difference? I think face-to-face, other than, on the telephone, I think is best for these two to be able to work things out. I mean, the Syrian conflict is the biggest humanitarian crisis. And it breaks my heart to see the people of Syria having to go through this because of a crooked, corrupt Assad that's being propped up by Russia. And just like we have to crack down on other regimes, I think we're going to have to really put it to them with a banking business, with goods that are going into the country. And unless they change their ways, and especially being able to hack into our computers, and whatever length that they went through to be able to meddle in our elections, and through our people, our diplomats, mainly in Washington, D.C., and how they were able to manipulate for their gain and what they're gaining and what they have. And there's going to be many more tidbits of information, I'm sure, that are going to come out on all of this and exactly to what extent Russia went through to be able to meddle and influence and money that they put towards this and what they plan on getting out of it. But they certainly have shown themselves to not be quite supportive of our initiatives that seem to be righteous in other parts of the world. And they disagree with us with North Korea. See, when you have this kind of thinking going on in Putin's head that this is okay and allowing this to happen, just like he poured into Crimea, and Obama just allowed him to do it. And that's okay. We'll put sanctions on him. It really stopped him. He's been able to get away with murder in so many other countries, murder because he didn't have anybody of leadership would actually mean what they say and say what they mean. At least with Ronald Reagan, when he said, tear down that wall, Mr. Gorbachev. I mean, you know, the man meant business. There was power in his words. When you have somebody that's standing up for something righteous and you say,